Alright, this is a presentation from Traktor Z2. It's a mixer and it's a controller at the same time. Here you can switch and turn on a Traktor deck or an external audio input. We have 3 EQ buttons, high, mid and low, and a separate filter, so we can separately turn down the treble while at the same time use the filter to play with the bass. That gives us some extra possibilities during DJ mixing. Here we have 2 buttons for pre-listening on the headphones. We can also choose if we listen to the cue or the mix signal. We can load tracks in the upper part of the mixer, and we can turn on sync modes or choose different modes in case we use the vinyl controls, which will be included when you buy the Z2. And now we are syncing. Track 1 on the left side is a master, and we fade in track number 2. I use my little Numa controller to start it, which is quite handy in case you DJ outside and the needles are not very good, for example. So at this time I have not used the scratch version. I jump to a cue point that I set before and I'm mixing the track in. It's fairly easy as this had been prepared before. You need to set the grid properly, otherwise this won't sound that nice. It's a little bit shocking how easy it is, but it sounds good, and you can also make manual corrections even if you are in the sync mode with the new Traktor generation. And if you want to do a podcast at home and can't listen very loud, it's quite nice that you can use a function like that. While at the same time, when you do it live, I'm not so sure, because you have to make a lot of preparations, and sometimes I prefer to just spontaneously add some tracks to my set. Okay, let's get back to the mixer. We have a crossfader. I put on a record. I can switch the input from the mixer. Unfortunately, you can't hear it right now because I recorded the audio directly from Traktor and not from the mixer, so the turntable signal could not be heard now, but you can get the idea how it works. The other thing you gotta realize is that the internal Traktor effects, of course, won't work with the external signal coming from a vinyl turntable or a CD player, but the filter will work with it. So now I'm trying out the effects. I'm gonna tweak the knobs a little bit. You don't hear too much right now. There's a dry wet, an on button and a parameter button. Now I'm turning the wet button. Now I'm tweaking the effect. But what's interesting about it is what's gonna happen if you turn down your fader. So for example, you wanna get out of the track, you stop it, you turn down the fader, and you still hear the effect. And that's because you can switch between pre and post fader mode by clicking shift and on. And now we have the opposite case. The effect also gets turned down when you turn down the fader. So you've heard both modes. You'll find the right situation when to use each of them. But now let's get to the sidebars of the mixer. They are basically the same on the left and right. You have hot cue buttons. You have a loop knob, which you can also push. You can push on a new flux mode, and you can switch between decks A and C or B and D respectively. Now I activate the loop in flux mode, and that means the track in background is still running while I am looping, so I get back to the right position in the track when releasing the loop button. And the interesting thing about it is that I can switch between different loop lengths very easily, very handy with this loop knob. It's a feature that already had been in Serato before, to be fair, but what's nice is that in Traktor now you can also use the hot cue buttons in this flux mode and keep the track running in the background. Now I'm setting a new cue point, and I'm in a quantized mode, so it's all in time. Now I'm jumping to a different cue point, and I'm jumping back. Flux mode was now out, so the track continues to run from that point on when I release it, but when I turn on the flux mode, I'll hear different things. Now it's working all fine. I haven't turned on the flux mode yet, but it worked very clean because it's all quantized. Now you can hear it. So that gives me a hell of a lot of opportunities to do nice mix things. It's again shockingly easy, but let's not be scared about great techniques. Let's just make something good out of it. When I switch to a different deck, I can turn up the volume of this separate deck, but in order to listen to it, I first have to make it play. In this case, this is not yet happening. Now I'm pushing the play button, and the effects that we will hear now are not so well matching to the track, but it's just for demonstration purposes. I'm not yet in a synced mode, but I'll change that. I go to deck number 2. I turn down the filter. I jump to a different cue point because I was too bored of the intro. And we will hear the effect soon. The one thing you could think about is that why do I really need this mixer? I mainly need the controller functions and not so much the audio in, but it's not very easy to program on your own what this mixer does, because in the first place you can't really see what has been programmed for this mixer even when you connect it, and then again it's in general quite difficult to program those buttons of any controller to different Traktor functions. You can buy an app on the App Store from Apple, and as said, it's not as easy as with Serato, but if you spend some time with it, you may work it out. And there's also still the option to use your keyboard for certain shortcuts.